and welcome. You're watching News Night, the agenda-setting primetime news show on national news broadcaster DD India. Well, as the world continues to brace corona outbreak, even G20 countries have now called for virtual conference coming week in view of COVID-19 pandemic. But back home, centre also continues to firm up the robust mechanism at all levels to contain COVID-19 outbreak. Government today, in fact, issued standard operating procedures for the first time for the passenger movement post de-embarkation at the international airports as well. So today on News Night, we focus on combating corona with a specific focus on precautions and a specific focus also on dispelling panic. We will be also getting you a comprehensive report as far as the COVID-19 containment across the country, across the globe is considered. Some of the countries continue to, in fact, firm up their restrictions. In fact, we have also learned that the borders in European countries have also been sealed for the next 30 days. And countries like Austria and other countries are also continuously firming up the restrictions in order to contain COVID-19 and corona outbreak in their respective countries. Well, on the discussion tonight on Newsnight, we'll be talking about not only the SOPs that are already in place vis-a-vis quarantine at home or at government facilities, but we will also be putting up a specific focus as far as the panic is considered. Well, there is no need to really panic. There is no need to really panic specifically when we talk about the testing facilities, the existing infrastructure that is available, and how the organizations or the agencies like ICMR and various verticals, various governmental agencies are chalking out large-scale strategies, big long-term plans as far as making it sure that there is a robust mechanism in place in terms of testing, in terms of precautionary measures, also most importantly in terms of dispelling any rumors, fake news related to COVID-19 outbreak and coronavirus across the country. We will be getting in the next 1 hour our ground reports from different parts of the country. Well, temples in some parts of the countries have been ordered closure. Well, remember, this is just a temporary preemptive precautionary measure. And also when it comes to sustaining precautionary measures at various workplaces, at the private setups as well as government setups. We in fact also saw how this preemptive and precautionary measures have also been taken at the Parliament today. The steps are in place at various assemblies and secretariat across the country in various states. In fact, are also now coming up. In fact, in Bihar, we have learned that the malls, the gymnasiums, the other important public places, for example, swimming pools, gymnasiums, cinema halls, all that have been ordered for closure. Remember, these are all precautionary and preemptive measures, and also taking a cue from how Prime Minister Modi led SAARC nations in terms of coming together, the regional cooperation in terms of SAARC countries containing corona outbreak, taking a cue from that, in fact, initiative. Now, G20 countries are also mulling over having a similar sort of virtual conference when it comes to G20 countries. All that and much more, but first up on News Night tonight, these are the top stories. The fight against COVID-19 continues. Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare chairs high-level review meeting, reviews preparedness regarding quarantine facilities, availability of testing kits, personal protective equipments, medicines and adequate isolation wards. Number of corona positive cases have risen to 151. Indian Army reports first case from Leh in Ladakh. All non-emergency leaves of paramilitary personnel have been cancelled. Thermal screening and sanitisation have been initiated in Parliament and various state assemblies. Various agencies and state governments also firm up steps to contain corona outbreak situation. Shopping malls, gymnasiums, spas, swimming pools closed till 31st of March in Bihar. Uttrakhand Secretariat allows officials to work from home beginning Friday. Meanwhile, CBSE issues directives for conducting board examinations. Jammu Kashmir government also suspends interstate bus services. As a precautionary and preemptive measure, temples in various parts of the country stand closed. Vaishno Devi yatra also suspended. Puri Administration has asked tourists to evacuate hotels within 2 days. Isckon Temples in Banglore and Vrindavan closed. Number of people infected worldwide crosses 200,000 mark and deaths top up to 8,000. Europe seals its borders for the next 30 days following Prime Minister Modi's SAARC-initiated G20 countries to hold virtual conference. Back home, political crisis continues in Madhya Pradesh, deferring hearing till tomorrow morning. Top court refuses to send Registrar General to meet rebel MLAs. Meanwhile, rebel MLAs blame Congress leader Digvijay Singh for dissent. They say they were not held captive. Madhya Pradesh BJP complains to Election Commission against Digvijay Singh, the former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. And Lok Sabha passes demand for grants for union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. More than 1 lakh crore rupees sanctioned. Finance Minister says funds are crucial for Jammu and Kashmir's roadmap for development. Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh lashes out at Mufti and Abdullah families, saying they're not worried about over 40,000 people who have lost their lives due to militancy, but are only bothered about 2-3 families. And Supreme Court pulls up Department of Telecom on its plea seeking 20 years time for recovering dues for telecompanies or telecos. Apex Court slams companies for violating orders and asking for reassessment of payable dues. And now for the top story in detail. The government continues to monitor and review the level of preparedness of hospitals and also the quarantine facilities, besides bolstering the state of healthcare facilities. Safdarjung Hospital in the national capital has announced that all patients at the emergency ward except the trauma patients will get screened for coronavirus before being admitted. It has also advised all ministries and departments to install thermal scanners at entry of government buildings as feasible. Meanwhile, 151 positive cases of coronavirus have been reported across the country, including 25 foreign nationals, and 3 deaths have been reported. There are 14 cases of recovery also that have been registered till to date.
Both union and state governments continue monitoring and tackling the spread of COVID-19 on a war footing. Dr. Harshvardhan, Union Minister of Health and Family Welfare, chaired a high-level review meeting about the preparedness of hospital management. Dr. Harshvardhan also reviewed the quarantine facilities for evacuees. This will be done every day with the aim of improving them. The Indian Army reported its first case of the coronavirus after a 34-year-old soldier from the Ladakh Scout Regiment tested positive for the infection in Leh. The soldier, a resident of Chot village in Leh, came in contact with his father, who had returned from a pilgrimage in Iran by an Air India flight on February 20th and tested positive for COVID-19. The soldier was on leave and tested positive after rejoining duty. His sister, wife and 2 children are also quarantined at S&M Heart Foundation. Meanwhile, all non-emergency leaves of paramilitary personnel have been cancelled in order to minimize the risk of contracting coronavirus during travel. Central Armed Police Forces have been advised to get into battle mode to combat the pandemic by ensuring personal and public safety, according to a 4-page directive issued by the Medical Wing of the Union Home Ministry. With Parliament and the Karnataka and Jharkhand Assemblies in session, the Health Department sanitized and fumigated the halls in both states before legislators gathered for the day. Chairperson of Rajya Sabha led by example by getting himself screened before entering the premises. Meanwhile, BJP has announced that it will not to hold any protest or demonstration across India for a month in view of the coronavirus outbreak.
पार्टी ने ये निर्णय लिया है कि अगले 1 महीने तक भारतीय जनता पार्टी किसी भी तरीके का जन आंदोलन नहीं करेगी, न ही किसी प्रदर्शन में भाग लेगी। कोई अगर विषयों के बारे में चर्चा करनी होगी तो 4-5 हमारे वरिष्ठ कार्यकर्ता संबंधित अधिकारी को ज्ञापन देंगे, लेकिन आंदोलन से अपने आप को दूर रखेंगे, धरना प्रदर्शन से अपने आप को दूर रखेंगे। ऐसा आज निर्णय लेकर के सभी प्रदेश की इकाइयों को सूचित कर दिया गया है।
Talking of states, in Maharashtra, the state with the maximum number of positive cases, there are reports of some people travelling to avoid self-quarantine. 4 passengers on a Garib Rath were deboarded at Palghar station, where the TTEs and co-passengers raised an alarm seeing a self-quarantine stamp on their hands. They had flown down from Germany and were headed to Surat. They were taken to the government hospital, Palghar. The 4 passengers were handed over to the district medical authorities. Ahmedabad Municipal Administration is also taking strict action against those violating directives to contain COVID-19.
2-3 केस ऐसे देखने को मिले जहां नगरजनों ने अपने घर से बाहर कदम रखा हो। ऐसे 5 केसेस में, कल 2 और आज 3, टोटल 5 केसेस में अब तक पुलिस की मदद से इन सभी लोगों को गवर्नमेंट की जो हमारी क्वारंटाइन फैसिलिटी जो 16 सिविल हॉस्पिटल में है वहां उनको शिफ्ट किया गया है।
In Uttar Pradesh, a 25-year-old junior resident doctor of the King George Medical University in Lucknow has tested positive for coronavirus after coming in contact with 2 patients undergoing treatment for the disease at its premises. The institute has announced suspension of all undergraduate academic classes and examinations till April 2nd as a preventive measure. The doctor has been kept in an isolation ward and is undergoing treatment. The J&K Union Territory government has ordered suspension of interstate bus services. The Uttarakhand Secretariat will be closed for a week beginning Friday with an advice to employees to work from home. Karnataka CM B.S. Yediyurappa announced that state cabinet has earmarked Rs 200 crore to combat spread of coronavirus in state. The first death due to COVID-19 in India was reported from Karnataka. In Punjab, CM Amrinder Singh held a meeting with senior officials to take stock of the situation. Rajasthan government has made triple-layer mask compulsory for all medical staff. The Rajasthan High Court has deferred elections for the 6 newly formed municipal corporations in the state for 6 weeks on grounds of coronavirus outbreak. Educational institutions are also taking preventive measures. IIT Bombay has announced a virtual shutdown of its campus at Powai till March 31st. The institute has asked students to vacate hostels by March 20th evening. All laboratories and the central library will also remain shut. CBSE has directed board examination centres to ensure sitting arrangement with adequate distance between students to contain the coronavirus spread. UP board has announced that all UP government school students of classes 1 to 8 will get promoted without exams since schools have been closed till the end of the month. The Vaishno Devi yatra or pilgrimage has been suspended indefinitely from the 18th of March. Tirumala temple is allowing darshan only on a slot token basis. As a result, there is no waiting in queue anymore. Visits to Delhi's Akshardham temple have reduced considerably and the temple administration is taking abundant precautions. The Mahabodhi temple in Gaya has also seen a drastic decline in the number of visitors. Golden Temple in Amritsar has begun thermal screening at entry points of the temple complex. Mosques in Bangalore have issued directions to cut short Friday prayers to 20 minutes to avoid large gatherings. On another front, Union Minister Kiren Rijiju tweeted, "Some incidents of racial remarks against Northeast people have emerged in some parts of India in the wake of coronavirus due to cultural ignorance, prejudice, mindset and lack of understanding. Matter discussed with any division MHA. Strict advisory is being issued to the states." With Bureau Inputs, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Well, according to ICMR, India is in the second stage of transmission, that is the local transmission. ICMR also has maintained that there is absolutely no sign of community transmission, which is the third stage. Meanwhile, stage 1 includes imported cases. These cases are the people who have traveled to foreign countries, places that have confirmed cases of the virus and have come back to India. Before we talk about the detailed explainer, we will be talking in detail about the various stages. That's going to be in our discussion, but let us now first understand the level of preparedness, the overall level of preparedness and the robust testing scenario that is available. We begin with combating corona or COVID-19, the cases. Who should be tested? Well, that's the big question. Now, the individuals from affected countries with symptomatic fever, sore throat or running nose should be going for the test. Those who have had close contacts of confirmed positive cases of COVID-19 infection. We're also healthcare workers are also very vulnerable, who are managing respiratory illness to be tested. They should be also tested as far as symptomatic concerns are concerned. Now, free of cost, the testing is free of cost, all those who need it. Moving on, let's also talk about the testing facilities, the testing protocol and testing scenario that is in place. Now, there are guidelines for private sector laboratories in place. Now, what are these guidelines? Lab tests to be done only when prescribed by a qualified physician as per ICMR guidance. Now, ICMR to share the SOPs or the standard operating procedures for laboratory testing. There are private labs that are needed to procure the primers, the probes, the reagents as per the SOPs. Adoption of commercial kits for testing is also in focus, and it's going to be based on the directives again that will continuously coming from ICMR or National Institute of Virology in Pune. At least 72 ICMR labs are functional, and these numbers are only going to go up in terms of labs in place. We're also talking about the expansion to add more labs on weekly basis as far as existing infrastructure is concerned. Now, besides ICMR, we're also looking at non-ICMR or Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the government affiliated labs to initiate testing facilities apart from what is already existing. Now, this includes CSIR, the verticals, the departments like CSIR, DBT, DRDO, as well as government medical colleges. Now, at least 49 non-ICMR labs will be starting these testing facilities, and the dateline is 22nd to 23rd March. Remember, on periodic or daily basis, we do have the briefing also coming in from various agencies to keep us updated what is being done on ground. Now, ICMR, NIV, they are also together augmenting existing stockpile. Now, the stockpile, essential stockpile of regions to 1 million. Remember, this is coming at a time when the World Health Organization has been already requested to provide additional 1 million probes for testing. Now, let's move on and talk about the other big story of the day. Remember, today airport SOPs were also in fact released for the passenger movement after disembarking from airplanes or aircrafts. Now, what is this entire SOP? It's a very comprehensive list of SOPs for the airport that has been issued. Number one, airport authorities to stagger the arrival of flights from COVID-19 affected countries. Now, this is in fact done in a very systematic manner. Passengers will be escorted from the aero bridges by staff to the health counters for initial thermal screening. Now, those with symptomatic passengers, they will be isolated and then they will be moved to designated hospitals. Now, besides symptomatic, the asymptomatic passengers will also be moved to designated immigration counters. Remember, these immigration counters are already marked there. Airline staff at the plane and also on ground, the airline staff and on ground staff has to ensure the arrival of passengers till they fill their SRF forms. Now, passenger passports will be retained by immigration officials. Remember, this is important. Passengers at the very outset will be handed over to the escort team, and this is going to be done in batches of 30, so as to see to it that all this is implemented systematically on ground. Now, what is this escort team that we are talking about? This escort team is going to be functional 24/7 basis. There are going to be 5 members in the team, and this team is going to be headed by CISF personnel. Now, escort team essentially is going to be comprising of the DIAL, airlines and Delhi police. They're also going to be part of these escort teams, 5 members basically. Passports will be handed over by the immigration staff to the team lead. And who is the team lead here? The CISF officer. Passports shall not be handed over to the passengers at the very outset at any cost. This is very important. Team with passengers will be moving to first luggage belts, the designated luggage belts. Meanwhile, the control rooms in charge will be performing the entire supervision and coordination duty. Control room triage area, and there are going to be 5 screening counters. These 5 screening counters will be manned by medical officers as well as paramedic staff on duty. Escort team will be reporting to the control room in charge. Now, the control room in charge will assign the counter to these batches. Remember, each batch will consist of 30 passengers. Passports will be handed over by the team lead, who is going to be the CISF officer, to the medical officer in charge. Passengers will be screened, and passengers without risk to be sent for home quarantine after providing their passports. home quarantine advisory will be handed over to them, and self-declaration to remain strictly under home quarantine is mandatory, and that will be duly signed. And if this is not followed, it will actually call for a penal action against them. Passengers will be linked to IDSP and surveillance system. This is important. Delhi government will be deputing Delhi state IDSP teams in this regard. And now let's also talk about the high-risk passengers first. High-risk passengers first will be asked to fill these declaration forms and whether they are opting for the government facility or a private facility. Passenger to be quarantined as per the availability of the quarantine list, and the list will be given to them. They will have to choose whether they want to go for the government quarantine facility or they want to opt for a private facility. Escort team will be escorting passengers finally to the transport facility, and the transport facility will be provided by the state government. Important, passengers shall be quarantined as per the guidelines which are already there. And remember, as we talk about this, the last batch of 185 Indian Umrah pilgrims, they are going to be landing in midnight tonight at Mumbai International Airport, will also have to follow the similar standard operating procedures for now. And now at this point we're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we're going to basically talk about in detail these SOPs, the guidelines, the latest that we hear from the advisory and the guidelines coming in from ICMR. Most importantly, dispelling myths and this huge hysteria that has been associated with this testing, and why and in what conditions testings are important, the testing infrastructure available on ground, and the final assessment as far as the case scenario right now in country is considered. Well, that too after a very short break. So stay with us on News Night on DD India. Thanks for staying with DD India. Well, in News Night tonight, we're going to specifically put our focus on the precautions, and most importantly, in focus tonight, we'll talk about dispelling panic. Focus on precautions and not on panic. And on the show tonight, we're very glad to have Dr. R.R. Gangakhedkarji. He heads ECD department in ICMR. Thank you so much, sir, Dr. Sir, for coming on News Night tonight, because we have so much to discuss today pertaining to ICMR, and also Dr. Meera Dhuria, Deputy Director, NCDC. Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming to the show. Dr. Gangakhedkar, first of all, a quick assessment, a quick round of assessment as far as the current scenario, the cases that are considered as of now. The number stands at 151. But if you could just make our viewers understand these levels, we are at level 2, and is there really a situation to panic? Because we see hordes and hordes of people are now going in for testing.
Yeah, there are a few things which we must understand. You know, there broadly, if you want to categorize the stages, they come in 4 stages. In the first stage, there is somebody who has visited a foreign country where this particular infection is widely prevalent, and he comes back to the country and is found as positive. In the second stage, when such an individual comes back or any other individual who has come in contact with a lab confirmed case, and then when you come in contact with such a person, you also become infected, that is something which is called as second stage. But in the third stage, what will happen is, even if we ask for the travel history, neither the person who has transmitted the infection to another person, he also does not know his, does not give you any travel history of foreign to foreign countries, nor the person who has acquired this infection, he also does not have any kind of a travel history which could be risky. So, essentially it would mean that today, if you look at those number of cases of about 150, even today the stage that we are in as a country is in stage 2, right.
So, en masse testing is not required?
En masse testing is not required, mainly because this infection has still not established itself into the community. Now, you can still identify who should be getting tested by asking him history of travel to such countries or history of having had closer contact with somebody who was a lab confirmed case of COVID-19.
Let me take this question to Dr. Meera Dhuria. Dr. Meera, is the spread of disease less severe when it comes to the way situation has panned out across the globe? Our response to the situation in the last few weeks or so, and in fact with every passing day, doctor, you would agree that our systems that are already in place are only getting more robust and aggressive.
See, this is a very pertinent question, but if we go back to how the thing started, how the situation evolved. So, on in the last week of December, this novel coronavirus outbreak of viral pneumonia was reported from China, and on 7th of January, China came up with the gene sequence of the virus, and they called it the novel coronavirus then, and now it is called the SARS-CoV-2, and the disease is known as COVID-19.
Right.
But let us be informed that Ministry of Health, Government of India puts its effort in place since the first week of January. So, we have a joint monitoring group, which is the highest level of the technical advisory group, which is there at the Ministry of Health, and the meeting was called with all the stakeholders like ICMR. Even at that time, it was like it is a zoonotic virus. So, we have the representatives from the Animal Husbandry Department and surveillance, and Airport Health Organization, International Health Division. So, everything was put in place, and the situation, see, it kept on evolving. So, earlier we were only thinking of having imported cases. So, the public health response which was put into place was that we have the airport screening, which started with initially 7 airports, which was extended to 35 airports, and finally we have.
And now we have a very comprehensive SOPs for disembarkation also.
Yeah.
And let me quickly have a word from you. I want a reaction from Dr. Ganga Shekhar also on that, but first from you, ma'am. The process we had before we went into the break, we had the detailed explainer on the SOPs for passengers after disembarking the plane. It's a very painstaking process. I mean, I think that's going to take at least 2 to 3 hours maximum or minimum. You may just give your assessment of it, but is that's going to be extremely beneficial. Why did we have to wait so long to come up with those SOPs? We could have done it earlier.
See, the SOPs actually, initially the testing at the airport started for very few countries which had local transmission and which went into community transmission. So, it is a graded or a phased response, because the resources are limited. We have to plan that way that we are not wasting our resources on something which we do not expect to happen here in India. But now it being declared as a pandemic, we have come up with the universal screening, and initially for 2 days we had some teething problems, but now with the SOPs in place, and it is for the public to understand that everything is being done for them. Finally, if we go and get ourselves tested, as sir would have also told us, is that this disease is a mild disease. 80% of the people will have mild symptoms, or some of them have been reported to be asymptomatic, and only 20% will have the disease. And this severe disease occurs in people who are high risk people, like elderly or with some underlying conditions, comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, or renal failure, or if they are on immunosuppressant drugs. So there is nothing to panic, and people should understand, and if they follow the advisory which is being given by the government based on the situation in which phase we are, like we are in phase 2 local transmission. So then the response has to be like that, and people need to understand there is no need to panic. We should follow the general precautions, and people who are coming.
The underlining thought is, yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, no need to panic. Dr. R.R. Gangasekaran, your assessment as far as the state of current healthcare facilities are considered, do you think there is actually a need to increase drastically the current infrastructure? When I say current infrastructure, I mean lab testing.
Lab testing as of now, I think if I was to put it in simple words, the capacity that we have, we are only utilizing 10% of the capacity.
Okay.
But when we say 10% of the capacity, we must also know that we are also flying down those samples wherever the laboratory does not exist in that particular metropolitan area or wherever. Now, which essentially can be avoided if we ramp up the capacity or increase the number of laboratories.
And we are doing that.
We are definitely doing that, and not only that, we also know that the private laboratories tend to have a wider network of their own collection centers. They have well established logistics agencies, and therefore, we have also initiated certain efforts to partner with these private labs, which will perhaps enhance access to testing. But there is no reason to believe, even as of now, that even if we are going towards private players, it does not mean that we are already into stage 3, but what we are doing is only preparing the community, preparing the health services.
It's a preemptive measure.
Absolutely.
But you made a very pertinent point, sir, when you said that we are only using 10% of the current existing facilities. That means we already have, there's a lot of leg room. We have already, our benchmark is much above what we are doing, right? So there's absolutely no need to worry.
No.
Please explain.
Absolutely not.
Because there's a lot of fake news, and there's also a sense of hysteria now associated with this testing and en masse testing. And if you may allow me to say, certain sections of international media are, giving it a very different spin, that the cases are not being reported or people are discouraged to go for testing, which is absolutely false, and it's a myth.
Absolutely.
Will you dispel those rumors, please?
This is a complete myth that we perhaps need to increase our testing, offer it to everybody. One must realize that the symptoms of this particular infection are so common, they resemble any symptom is resembling the cough and cold, normal influenza or flu that we tend to get. And this is also the season where flu is a common infection as such. Now, in these circumstances, there are people who may be suffering from flu, and since they develop those symptoms, people tend to believe that could it be COVID-19?
Yes.
But they need to ask one question to themselves, that whether they had any history of visiting to such foreign countries where this infection is common, or have they ever come in contact with somebody who had lab confirmed corona virus infection.
So, can we just understand that most infections, this is for you ma'am, most infections as of now are related to foreign travel. So, I think this initial self-testing is pretty essential for all of us to understand before we get into that panic mode, because I think most of it is also associated with the psychological panic, because you hear about the news, you look around you, and it's happening 24/7 basis.
So, if we go about like what is the transmission pattern, or what is the transmissibility of the disease, let's talk about that. So, what is the mode of transmission? Mode of transmission is that if somebody who's infected, who has the disease, he coughs or sneezes, and the droplets, the large droplets, they land on the person's face, mouth, nose, and then the person has the infection, or the person who is infected touches some surface, and that surface is touched by another person who's healthy, and then that person touches the face, mouth, and it goes into the mucous membrane, and then you have the infection. And one person is believed to transmit the disease to 2 to 4 persons per se, and and this will go on. So we can have an exponential rise if we do not get into the social distancing measures, and if it's pertinent to maintain 1 meter distance if somebody has cough or sneezing, and the person who has it, he should be following the respiratory etiquettes, and hand washing becomes very important because all of us are traveling. So we cannot say that, you know, we should avoid traveling by public transport in such a situation when we are into potential community transmission, but all this cannot be done.
That's not doable for each one of
Yeah,
us.
so
Avoiding public transport.
if it is so necessary, then you wear a mask, try to maintain distance, but that is also very difficult. So it's better, like social distancing measures and advisories have already been issued, and people are they are asked to work from home, and you know, some people also are undergoing at the offices, they have the hand sanitizers in place, and hand washing becomes important. And then I believe the person who are coming from foreign countries and they are the potential source of infection, if they self-isolate, self-quarantine, and they do not get into the community.
And even if you could just educate our viewers, inform our viewers more about, sir, this is for you, Dr. Ganga Khedkar, sir, I'm sorry. Self-quarantine is also not alarming.
Not at all.
There's no alarm associated with self-quarantine.
Yeah, one of the things.
You know, these are these myths.
Yeah, one of the things which we have realized, which we need to realize, most of us want to take break from the work. This is your best opportunity to stay alone, reflect on what you have achieved, reflect on what you want to achieve, rather than getting panicky about this particular issue of isolation, and then try to avoid this isolation. By avoiding isolation, if you mix up with your own family, then you are endangering their lives as well, especially those who may be your elderly parents. You know, you are exposing them to an unnecessary or preventable risk for no reason. If you love them so much, if you respect them so much, it is important to believe that we should be a responsible citizen, and we should try and avoid transmission of this infection, not only to the family members, follow the isolation
I'm sorry,
guidelines.
I'm running really short of time. My last question is going to be pertaining to those doctors, health workers, you know, those unsung heroes who have been working relentlessly day in and day out. There are some reports about now they also feeling certain symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of fear. How are we going to, because that's the portion we cannot ignore. Taking care of cases, positive cases, infected cases, but those who are taking care of them are also very vulnerable.
Yeah. There are a few things which we have to remember when it comes to healthcare workers, especially doctors. One of the things is you will not be able to recognize who could be a potential COVID-19 patient. So, what does it essentially mean? You will have to follow the standard precautions related to protection with all the patients who come to you. Is that very difficult to do? Perhaps not. Please remember, it's just adherence to standard precautions which we have been taught in your second MBBS exam at that juncture. Second thing which we have to remember, that most often those who are likely to come in contact are going to be those who are younger ones. If they are younger ones, there is no reason to believe that this illness could perhaps prove to be potentially fatal. So, is there a room to say that we should avoid working among them? Absolutely not. But this aspect of they handling this situation so well, despite the fear of transmission, they continue to work in the field of caring these patients. The society must recognize them. The society, which currently, if you actually look at one issue that tends to come up repeatedly, you know, whenever there is a patient admitted in ICU, if suppose that patient dies, no, there is a traditional response that is being seen so often that they tend to beat, they tend to go for verbal abuse or physical abuse.
Why?
This needs to be avoided, because they feel that it is the doctor who was responsible for the death. Please remember, doctor is not a god. He tries to make the best possible effort. The way you have a grief of somebody who is related to you dying, please also keep in mind
Yeah,
that
right.
every patient's death is something which disturbs a doctor.
Yes.
So let us
Be a
applaud
little
them.
more sensitive
Let's
towards
move
that
ahead.
aspect as well. That's all we have time for. Dr. R.R. Ganga Khetkarji and Dr. Meera Dhuria, thank you so much both of you for joining us on Newsnight tonight. Well, moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has retweeted several tweets from citizens on tackling COVID-19. He has congratulated Odisha Chief Minister, saying, setting a great example, Chief Minister, I hope others also emulate Naveen Babu. We all can do our bit in preventing the spread of COVID-19. Naveen Patnaik, in fact, has tweeted he has registered his sister's details in the government portal for persons coming from abroad. Prime Minister also lauded for encouraging employees to maintain productivity while working remotely. He has wished the firm the best. And responding to Sabarit Chaudhary's tweeting, lauding the SARC video conference initiative, Prime Minister Modi said, working together can lead to good results. He thanked Prime Minister Hasina for sharing her insights with the fellow SARC leaders as well. Prime Minister has also retweeted Pranjal Sharma's tweet, reiterating Prime Minister Modi's call to researchers, innovators and technology lovers to share emerging technology solutions to fight COVID-19. Prime Minister has also lauded a resident doctor from Safdarjung Airport for his PSA, asking people to stay home. Prime Minister said, and I quote, a shout out to all those working to make our planet safer and healthier. No words will ever do justice to their exceptional efforts, unquote. And the number of people infected worldwide has crossed 200,000 mark, and deaths topped 8,000, with the number of people recovering at more than 82,000, at least 82,000. Now, this is according to according to a tally kept by Johns Hopkins University. All eyes are now on US President Donald Trump's news conference later today to discuss what he calls very important news from the FDA concerning the Chinese virus.
COVID-19 is wreaking havoc across the world, with at least 2 lakh people infected and over 7,900 casualties. Although only one new case has been reported from Wuhan, the epicenter of the virus, but the number of cases from across the world are escalating. The European Union sealed off its borders to try to put the brakes on the ferocious spread of the coronavirus pandemic, as the number of deaths on the continent soared past the toll in Asia. In Europe, more than 3,400 have been recorded. Italy has reported 2,503 deaths, with 31,506 people infected with the virus, out of which 2,941 have recovered. The government revealed over 325 deaths in a single day. Italian government has also imposed lockdown in order to limit the spread of the deadly virus, whereas Iran has reported 147 deaths in a day, taking the death toll to 1,135. In South Korea, 93 new cases of COVID-19 have been diagnosed, mounting the total cases to 8,413. Spain has also reported 558 deaths, with 13,700 infected.
We are facing an unprecedented challenge. An unknown pandemic that has spread unusually quickly across the globe. A threat to global public health that understands no borders, no colors, no languages. An extraordinary challenge that requires us to take exceptional action.
In Spain, more than 20 inmates clambered onto the roof of a migrant detention center in Madrid while protesting against the poor conditions inside the detention center. While in Britain, COVID-19 has claimed at least 71 lives, with 2,000 cases of the virus. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that his government would bring forward new measures to support workers and protect private renters from being evicted from their homes because of coronavirus. Queen Elizabeth II of Britain has called off all her engagements over COVID-19. 3,162 France's army transferred 6 patients in critical condition due to coronavirus to a military facility on Wednesday, as it sought to ease the strain on hospitals in the east of the country that are struggling to cope with the spiraling number of cases. The decision to move patients in intensive care to the southeastern city of Toulon, where several military medical hospitals are located, comes as doctors in the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in the eastern French cities of Mulhouse and Colmar warn that the system is at breaking point. French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe has also expressed concerns over the increasing impact of deadly virus in Britain. He has warned Britain to strengthen the application of its quarantine measures or risk having its nationals barred from being in France.
It goes without saying that if other countries, especially neighboring countries, for example the United Kingdom, stay too long in a logic in which they do not apply these measures, then it will be difficult for us to accept British nationals within our territory.
Meanwhile, Health Minister of France has expressed hope that the impact of virus will dwindle within 8 to 12 days in the country. The death toll from the novel coronavirus in the USA has climbed to 103. US President Donald Trump tweeted that the government would ensure payment to people locked down in their homes due to coronavirus. He also said that Medicare and Social Security of Americans will be taken care of. Following EU crisis, Germany's Chancellor announced immediate plans to close the borders to all non-EU, EFTA or UK residents.
The first thing is that we all agreed with the suggestion of the Commission regarding an entry ban into the Europe, with very few exceptions from countries that neither belong to EU or EFTA or the UK. It still needs to be put into place by the member states and will be for 30 days. Germany will put into place immediately. It will be the remit of the Interior and Foreign Ministries.
Countries across the world are taking precautionary measures to contain the spread of the virus. Lockdown has been imposed in Germany. Level 4 travel ban has been imposed in Australia. Malaysia has also went into a 2-week partial shutdown after coronavirus infection cases in the country spiked to 673. Ecuador has also imposed restrictions over domestic travel from 9 p.m. at night to 5 a.m. in the morning. The country has reported 111 cases of the virus. Meanwhile, Indian ambassador to USA said that he has been in contact with the shipping company and American officials regarding Indian crew members of Grand Princess cruise ship. Nepal has also banned large gatherings and closed down public places such as movie theatres, cultural centres, gymnasiums, nightclubs, swimming pools, stadiums and museums until the end of April in response to the fast-spreading coronavirus pandemic. Pakistan government is in deliberation with World Bank to take loan of over $20 crore. The country reeling under the financial crisis has sought for the aid from World Bank to enhance facilities in its 270 hospitals to tackle the impact of virus. The number of cases in Pakistan so far has reached 250. Asia Development Bank has announced the package of $6.5 billion for its member developing countries, whereas Saudi Arabia has called for a virtual meeting next week to discuss the coronavirus epidemic. This comes after PM Modi's video conference with SAARC leaders. Meanwhile, WHO has lauded the efforts of India of raising awareness among people with the help of the caller tune. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And from coronavirus-related stories, shifting focus to political news. Shifting focus to the political crisis first in Madhya Pradesh, where Chief Minister Kamal Nath continues to be precariously placed. Now, there's a new twist to MP political crisis. The top court, the Supreme Court, has refused to send Registrar General to meet rebel MLAs while deferring hearing for tomorrow morning. Remember, earlier 6 Madhya Pradesh rebel ministers and at least 16 MLAs who resigned from the Congress along with senior leader and former Guna MP Jyotiraditya Scindia on 10th of March earlier. They have been harbouring various grievances for quite some time now against Kamal Nath government, which eventually led to their resignation. Here's a report.
After hearing the arguments of both the parties, the Supreme Court questioned the Assembly Speaker and asked why the resignations of the MLAs were not yet accepted. During the hearing, Mukul Rohatgi, lawyer for former CM and BJP leader Shivraj Singh Chauhan, said the governor's orders are fully lawful. The governor received a letter from rebel MLAs. They asked the government to go for the floor test, which is their constitutional responsibility. He said that it has been made clear through the SR Bomai case that if the Chief Minister refuses the floor test, then it can be assumed that the government has no majority left. Mukul Rohatgi said in court that we are ready to present all the 16 MLAs in the judge's chamber. A bench comprising Justices D.Y. Chandrachud and Hemant Gupta said it is not going to come in the way of the legislature to decide who enjoys the trust, but it has to ensure that there is a free exercise of choice which these 16 MLAs can make. The bench also adjourned the hearing on the petitions of former Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan and 9 BJP MLAs till 10:30 am on Thursday. During the hearing in the apex court, the counsel for the rebel MLAs said they are ready to face any consequences as per the provision of the constitution. On behalf of the MLAs, the bench was also told that they have not been kidnapped and are also presenting a CD before the court as evidence in this regard. They do not want to meet Congress leaders. There is no legal principle to compel us. Also, the Madhya Pradesh Congress Party requested that the process of obtaining the trust vote of the government be postponed till the by-elections are held. Meanwhile, Congress leader Digvijay Singh received a setback from the Karnataka High Court. The court rejected Digvijay Singh's demand to meet the rebel MLAs of the Madhya Pradesh. Now the case will be heard on 26th March. Meanwhile, 22 Congress MLAs in Bengaluru released a video saying that they resigned after being upset over the neglect of the Kamal Nath government and they neither want to talk nor meet Digvijay Singh on this issue.
पिछले 10 तारीख को मैं अपनी विधानसभा की सदस्यता से त्यागपत्र दे चुका हूं विधानसभा अध्यक्ष जी को और अपनी स्वेच्छा से मैं वर्तमान बेंगलोर में हूं। आज सुबह टीवी के माध्यम से पता चला कि हमारे मध्य प्रदेश पूर्व मुख्यमंत्री दिग्विजय सिंह जी यहाँ आए हुए हैं तो वो हम लोगों से मिलना चाह रहे हैं। इसमें मेरा निवेदन है कि हम लोग मैं खुद व्यक्तिगत रूप से दिग्विजय सिंह जी से नहीं मिलना चाह रहा क्योंकि मैं अपनी स्वेच्छा से यहाँ हूँ। तो यहाँ की सरकार से निवेदन है कि हमारी सुरक्षा करे। हम किसी भी कांग्रेसी लीडर से मिलना नहीं चाहते।
हम लोग अपनी मर्जी से बेंगलोर आए हैं और हम दिग्विजय सिंह से मिलना नहीं चाहते। इनकी वजह से ये सरकार गई है और भविष्य में मैं बेंगलोर की पुलिस से निवेदन करना चाहता हूं कि वो हमको पूरी सुरक्षा प्रदान करें।
BJP too targeted Digvijay Singh and said that when the MLAs do not want to meet, then why are they forcing them?
नहीं, दिग्विजय सिंह तो बिल्कुल मौकरी कर रहे हैं। ये मिस्टर बंटाधार करने में ही लगे हैं। या तो वो कहें कि भाई हमने मिलने नहीं दिया जा रहा, वो पब्लिक में टीवी पर मीडिया में वो ये कह रहे हैं कि हम कहीं बंधक नहीं हैं, हम नहीं मिलना चाहते इनसे, हम कमलनाथ सरकार के साथ नहीं है। वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में अपना वकालतनामा भेज देते हैं। आज उनकी याचिका लगी है कि हमको साथ में रखिए, हम 6 का जो इस्तीफा स्वीकार किया वैसे हमारा भी स्वीकार करिए।
Meanwhile, the BJP on Wednesday complained to the Election Commission against Digvijay Singh, accusing him of undue influence and pressure on 16 MLAs living in Bengaluru. Significantly, the BJP leader and former CM Shivraj Singh Chauhan has pleaded in the court to get a floor test of the Kamal Nath government soon. Vikas Sarthi in Bhopal for Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Moving on, the second leg of the budget session of Parliament is underway and precautions are also being taken in view of the COVID-19 in Parliament premises as well. Thermal screening was initiated at entry point of Parliament House for MPs as well. We have this report.
Progress in legislative work could be seen in Parliament on Wednesday. In Lok Sabha, during question hour, many important subjects were taken up and demand for grants for J&K and Ladakh were then passed after discussion. Replying in Lok Sabha, Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh said that for the first time in the history of independent India, NDA government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave a package of 80,000 crore rupees for the development of Jammu and Kashmir.
Modi ji ne बार-बार ये कहा है कि जम्मू कश्मीर को हमने विकसित क्षेत्रों के स्तर पर ला करके खड़ा करना। And we have seen this happening in Northeast. The transformation that has taken place in Northeast in the last 5 years is revolutionary. It is to be seen, to be believed. हमारे आलोचक भी इसकी तारीफ करते हैं। और वही बदलाव अगर पूर्वोत्तर में संभव है मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में, तो कोई कारण नहीं कि ये बदलाव जम्मू कश्मीर में संभव ना हो, क्योंकि मोदी है तो मुमकिन है।
अगस्त 2019 फरवरी 2020 से समय तक आतंकवाद हिंसा तकरीबन अप्रॉक्सीमेटली 60% कमी हुई है। दूसरा, आज सुरक्षा बलों का जो शहीद होते थे हमारा सुरक्षा बल, वो भी आतंकवाद के कारण हो, पाकिस्तान के जो क्रॉस बॉर्डर फायरिंग का वो इसके कारण से शहीद होते थे, ये भी 76% आज हमारा शहीद का होता था, उसमें भी हमें कमी हो गया।
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said the Modi government is focused on overall development of J&K. She added the development of J&K and Ladakh has been the priority of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
The various developmental activities which are happening in great speed for the welfare of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, for the welfare of the Dalits of Kashmir, for the welfare of the STs of Kashmir, for the welfare of the women of Kashmir who have been denied their rights only because of the so-called special status of 370. And now, when it is being abrogated, you see that everyone gets their right. You see that every member receives their due.
In Rajya Sabha during 0 hour, many issues of public interest were taken up. Congress members created ruckus on the issue of Digvijay Singh being in custody. Proceedings of the House had to be halted till 2 in the afternoon after pandemonium prevailed. In Rajya Sabha, National Commission for Indian System of Medicine Bill 2019 and the National Commission for Homeopathy Bill 2019 were passed after discussion.
आज आयुर्वेदा भारत में ही नहीं बल्कि कई राष्ट्रों से हमें डिमांड आ रही है कि हमारे पास आप इस हमारी जो रिसर्च और कोऑपरेशन में आप हमें एमओयू करिए, हम आपके साथ काम करने के लिए तैयार हैं। और मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि कम से कम 14 अन्य राष्ट्रों में हमारे एमओयू बन गए आयुर्वेदा के, होम्योपैथी के, योगा के, और कम से कम 10 यूनिवर्सिटी में वो हमें चेयर प्रदान किया है कि हमारे प्रोफेसर वहाँ जाके पढ़ा रहे हैं। और कम से कम 58 इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर 28 राज्यों में 58 इंफॉर्मेशन सेंटर भी बनाए गए हैं।
Lot of legislative work is being carried out in both houses of parliament, and the government's focus is to take forward the legislative agenda in the interest of the nation. With inputs from Anuj Yadav, Sudhakar Das, Rajesh Raj and Shailendra Mishra, News Night Desk, DD India.
And the spread of coronavirus has impacted staging of sports events around the globe. Governments are struggling to stop the spread of virus, advising against public gatherings. And in several countries, people have been cautioned not to shake hands to minimize risk of contamination. More in this report.
Because of the coronavirus that has halted most sports around the world. Known as Candidates Tournament, the event organized by the International Chess Federation brings together contenders vying for the chance to challenge defending world champion Magnus Carlsen of Norway for the world title. Copa America has been postponed until 2021 because of the coronavirus. South American football body says that the tournament in Colombia and Argentina will be played between 11th of June and 11th of July. Brazil are the reigning Copa America champions who won the 2019 edition of the tournament after beating Peru by 3-1 margin. Argentina's government has suspended all domestic soccer matches until the end of March because of the coronavirus pandemic. Argentina Soccer Federation and the country president Alberto Fernandez was initially against halting the games but changed their minds after players said they were unhappy about continuing to play. International Olympic Committee said that this summer's Tokyo Olympics will be held as scheduled despite challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic. The IOC agreed with the Federation to advance their preparation for the Games to begin on July 24th, although the current situation is unprecedented for the whole world. Sports Desk, DD India.
Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of News Night on DD India. Thanks for tuning in. Namaskar.